Hi, everybody, and happy Thanksgiving. This episode is going to air on Thanksgiving. It's very exciting and Merry Christmas. We are very excited to be giving you a bonus episode of the Hallmarkies podcast today. And today we are getting all manly. It's going to be very exciting. We're talking about Christmas movies for dudes in honor of Three Wiser Men and a Boy coming out on Hallmark Channel this last weekend. And of course, Red One. We are talking about some fun movies for the guy in your life. And I am film critic Rachel Wagner. Terry's here.
Hi.
And we had to bring on, of course, we had to bring on a dude to talk about this.
Yes.
Yes. We brought on my friend Sean Chandler is here.
Woo!
And thank you so much for coming on the podcast.
Yeah, absolutely. We're getting ready for the Christmas season, so gave me a good excuse to put on a Christmas hat, Christmas pajamas, and a fireplace on my television set. So yeah, I'm in the mood. Yeah, the house has been decorated, like everything is good to go. All I need to do now is talk Christmas movies, and the Christmas season is officially here.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, over here on the Hallmarkies podcast, we've been celebrating Christmas now for over a month. So it's been exciting. But but yeah, I mean, as far as these kind of, I tried to pick like the sort of more masculine energy films. What do you think, as a dude who reviews movies, what do you think is the key to getting a movie that everybody in your life will like for, and particularly the guys in your life will like for the holidays?
Well, I think in general, I think Christmas is one of those seasons that it we're all just kind of drawn to it for the most part. And so even most dudes are softened during that season. So there's any number of movies that this similar genre, this similar amount of childishness, whatever, they're more softened to it during the holiday season.
Yeah.
So even the annual movies we watch, there's a lot of things that sneak in there that, that genre is not necessarily for me, but also you want to have some of those ones that are a little bit leaning more into, of our four quadrants, our grown men quadrant. So I mean, I think if you look at some of the ones that are in here, the obvious answer is you go in a overtly action direction with some of these movies. But even, perhaps a little bit more of an edge to some of the comedy and some of the ones that I'm going to go within here of just there's a sugary sweetness to so many Christmas movies and because they're family films, and so it's kind of nice. Let's throw a few edgy picks in here with some humor. Even one of the movies I have on here, it's a movie that is a Christmas classic for many people, but my wife kind of hates it. Jennifer kind of hates it.
Oh.
And the only thing that really softened her to it a little bit was watching it for the first time with our kids. And when it stopped being about her enjoying the movie and how much she thinks about these characters and was watching the kids laugh at all of the hijinks, suddenly she started to be won over. But I don't know, maybe it's some of that of just having a little bit more a different edge to it, whether, people being shot in the face with a machine gun or the humor, something like that.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of nostalgia in holiday films because you watch them every year, so they become part of like a tradition. They become part of your movie going life is to watch. We got to watch this movie every year, and I don't know. What did you think, Terry, as you were coming up with your six? How did you come up with your picks?
Well, this one I had to really think about it because I do love movies that go boom. And I was like, is this really a guy movie? It might, just because it's told from like the guy's point of view. Sometimes I don't necessarily think it's just a guy's movie. So I really had to really think hard about it. And I tended to go a little bit more actiony in my like picks, but I do love a masculine man just, tearing the town apart in my guy movies, I guess. So
Yeah.
I went more that way.
Well, Sean, where do
Yeah.
you draw the line as far as like what in your mind is a
Yeah.
Christmas movie and what doesn't qualify?
It's always tough because whatever criteria you come up with, there's a counterexample.
Yeah.
And there's a little bit of that, just that intuitive vibe to it. And so it's more in my mind less of a this cuts things off so much as does it have enough things that fit the mold of the nature of the plot, the themes being explored, the tone, but you don't have to have all of those. You only have to have like two of them. If you have two of them, you qualify. But you go through the list that I have picked here, or movies that even before we started recording, I was telling you, oh, this one doesn't qualify. Where other people, of course, this one qualifies. And I think that some people think it's got one of the three or four things. And I'm like,
Yeah.
you got to have you have to have more than just one
Yeah.
of them to qualify. And it's that sort of thing. You just have to like look at, kind of go through it and make your case for each of them. Because even there's a strong, a big argument against say Die Hard is that you could take this exact movie, set it during any other time of the year, and the movie still works and makes sense. But that also applies to Home Alone. Like,
Yeah, it applies to Home
Yes.
Alone, it applies to It's a Wonderful Life, it applies
Yeah.
to,
Yeah.
Yeah, it's an interesting question. I mean, there's movies that again, because of that nostalgia and that tradition of watching it every year, that like have nothing to do with Christmas at all. Like Sound of Music
Right.
somehow got roped into Christmas, which makes no sense. I know the people that religiously watch The Lord of the Rings every Christmas, and that makes no sense, but live your truth. Like, whatever. So, all right, well, let's dive into our picks, and we have the short list. I'll put in the description if you want to make your own video or your own blog with your picks off of the short list. We would love to hear those. Just tag us, and that would be really fun. So, Terry, what do you have as your number 6?
Well, I ended up going with Bad Santa, which is not necessarily a good movie, but it is a movie that I enjoyed. And because this guy is just such an utter mess and all the shenanigans. And at the time when it came out, I was like, oh, this person's miserable. This person has foul language. It's raunchy. And I was like, I'm good for this. It was kind of a different
Yeah.
type of holiday movie. And I kind of like it. It's not good, but I was entertained by his shenanigans,
Uh-huh.
and just like, sometimes you feel that way. He was a rotten Santa at the mall. He didn't want to do it. He yelled at them kids, and I was like, okay, sometimes you got to yell at them kids. So I went, I don't know if it's a safe pick, but I chose Bad Santa.
I have never seen Bad Santa, and it was interesting.
You will
because-
survive. You
Well,
will survive.
I was actually just talking
it's
with
an
Wanda.
experience.
It is, and I don't know why I put it on my list, but I did.
Because I do a series called Blind Spot with my friend Monda, and we were going over next year's picks, and we're like, what is a Christmas movie I haven't seen, which there aren't very many left, and that was one we talked about, because I'm like, I haven't seen it.
That was my right before we started, you mentioned you added something onto the list. That was the number 6 that was on my list that I
Yeah.
kicked off, that I didn't really want it on my list, but I didn't have a sixth one from the movies that were there that I felt comfortable with.
It's an honorable mention, you'd say.
Yeah, we'll call it my honorable mention. Like,
Yeah.
if you've got a dude in your life that likes crass, mean-spirited humor,
Yes.
that's like, and but then also it Lauren Graham is in it. So, and it was while during Gilmore Girls was still running. So she's at the peak of Lorelai fame, and then she's in Bad Santa, and it's like,
Which matches, because
Even
Lorelai
just-
was a terrible person, so it matches that she'd be in here.
well, and so then this movie really plays out the full like let's take away the sweetness and the charmingness of the Gilmore Girls, and like,
Yeah.
what this person really needs. But in Bad Santa, I mean, it is so raunchy and vile
It
/ awesome. I haven't watched it in a long time, but
Yeah.
when I'm in the mood for inappropriate Billy Bob Thornton,
Yes.
like, this is peak bad behavior Billy Bob Thornton. This is peak that.
And I love John Ritter in this movie too. And what's funny is I've only ever seen the unrated version. I've never seen the theatrical release. So
Okay.
I even watched the more raunchier version.
Well, if I was going to do an honorable mention, mine would probably be In Bruges, would be my honorable
Yeah.
mention. It's a really good movie. It's just not that Christmassy. It's like a little
Yeah.
bit. So that's why I didn't have it in my top 6, but It's a very good bro-tastic movie about these
Yeah.
two hitmen. Um, so Sean, what would be your number six?
Um, on mine, I went Fat Man, the Mel Gibson Santa Claus movie from just a few years back, where a child hires an assassin to kill Santa Claus, and it plays it in this ridiculous concept, but it plays it fairly straight. And I love when movies have just these bonkers premise of an assassin out to kill Santa Claus, and it plays it serious. It plays it as if like we're just seriously doing this insane scenario. And that's kind of what this movie did. And cranky old man Santa with a gun from Mel Gibson, another fun concept for me. And then Walton Goggins, one of these actors that always puts a smile on my face when he shows up. And so Walton Goggins as an assassin trying to kill Mel Gibson Santa Claus and all out war at the North Pole. That's my kind of, puts me in the Christmas spirit.
Well, my number six, I have a movie that I think is generally underrated from the 80s. All these teen comedies from the 80s. I don't feel like you hear this one talked about that much. I have Better Off Dead at number six. And this is just a really funny comedy. It's so quotable. I love the cat taxi drivers who learned how to speak English from listening to that Howard Cosell. Lane Myers, a man on a mission. It's absolutely absurd and ridiculous, but very funny.
Is this the one where there's like a dancing hot dog or something in the middle of it or something?
A hamburger.
Hamburger, yeah. So I've seen it a few times, but it's been a while. So I saw it. I was like, I think I've seen that one, but I forgot about it. But yeah.
French, you French, international languages. It's ridiculous. But it's more of a winter movie than a Christmas movie. But there is iconic scenes where his mom is such a terrible cook that that's all he asks for Christmas is TV dinners. That's all he gets. And
Pretty bad. That is not bad.
He's like opening, ooh, this is meatloaf or whatever. That's all he wants. And where the the pudding that she makes literally crawls off of his plate. It's like, oh, it's absurd, but very funny. And one, if you haven't seen it, you should give it a try. My mom even likes it, and she hardly likes any movies, so it's just a funny film. His best friend's like a stoner guy, and he's like, you know, this is actual snow. Do you know the street value of this stuff? This is pure snow. It's ridiculous.
Ho, ho, ho. We'd like to take a second and thank our sponsor for this episode of the podcast. It's the Hallmarkies Patreon.
Do you love Hallmarkies podcast, especially at Christmas?
Do you enjoy the holiday previews, recaps, interviews, and bonus episodes?
If the answer is yes, please consider supporting the Hallmarkies Patreon. We need your help to do what we do both during the Christmas season and all year round.
But not only do you help a podcast led by strong, independent women by becoming a Patreon, you get to become a part of the Hallmarkies family.
Starting at only $2 a month as a patron, you will have access to our Facebook Patreon group where we talk about the movies, shows, and more all year.
We also have many monthly patron watch-alongs with guests like Lacey Chabert, Natalie Hall, Paul Campbell, Mary Lou Henner, and more, giving their behind-the-scenes details of their films.
As a patron, you also have the chance to provide input into the podcast and even join us at different tiers.
So this Christmas season, spread some cheer to the Hallmarkies Patreon and become a member today. You won't regret it.
Go to patreon.com/Hallmarkies to learn more.
That's patreon.com/Hallmarkies.
Carrie, what is your number 5?
I decided to go with the Guardians of the Galaxy, the holiday special, for the sole reason that Kevin Bacon just stole the show for me.
Mm-hmm.
And I do think it's good because at the time this movie came out, I was kind of a little MCU out. Like I was just exhausted and tired. But I do think it's funny that they the shenanigans they get up to, and it's nice because we don't get like outside of like Iron Man 3, which I don't think counts. There's not a lot of like Christmas set comic book movies, at least that I'm aware of. So it was nice and unique in its own way.
Yeah.
And it was fun. It really
Yeah, I
was.
forgot about this one, added it last minute,
So did
but
I.
but it was a lot of fun, and it was nice because I wasn't that big a fan of volume 2, so it was nice to kind of get reminded of what I like
Yeah.
about the group and just be sort of endeared to them again.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And like everybody's
Uh,
a sad sack. And like Kevin Bacon should get the gold for this one. He was so funny.
yeah, I mean, this one was. I'll just switch my order around just a little bit. But this is also my number 5 on my list. But I, even kind of echoing what you just said, Rachel, I also was not very big on Guardians Volume 2, and even some of what really bugged me in that movie was the Drax Mantis relationship being so unbalanced of him just like being mean to her. And this fixed that. And it made it a back
Yes.
and forth, and it wasn't no longer big, strong man member of team talking down to a marginalized girl without confidence, and it balanced the two of them out. So it was fun banter. Like this is one, it came out. We watched it like 4 times in the 3 weeks before Christmas, whenever the movie came out, and then we've watched a couple times in the middle of the year just because the kids have a lot of fun with it. And so it's just kind of a movie that, or special, whatever you want to call it, that, yeah, like what you said, Rachel, reminded me of everything I loved about these characters while being a really solid Christmas little special. And in an
Yes.
era where so many movies are so long and inefficient and require so much time to do so little, you watch this. It's 45 minutes long. It has like 4 multiple musical numbers in it. It sets up where they're at. They go on an adventure to Earth. They come back. There's a misunderstanding. There's a heartfelt message at the end of it. All of it in a really tight little window of time. And so, like, actual efficient storytelling that's still funny, heartfelt, all the things you want. So, um, yeah, that was as soon as this came out, it immediately made its way onto our watch every year list.
Yeah, it's just really charming, and it fits. It didn't. I never would have thought of it, but really, that Christmas aesthetic really fits James Gunn's overall
Yes.
aesthetic for the Guardians, which is
Yeah.
interesting. Well,
Well, even like his love for music of like he's so musically inclined and you don't
yeah,
immediately think uh um you watch it and that's part of what makes it pop. Like the Christmas song at the beginning with the misunderstandings about Christmas. That's so James Gunn. That sort of humor. And it also it's a fun Christmas thing to have these aliens that have heard through the telephone what Christmas is and they make a song about what they think it is. And like that's my kids became obsessed with that. They would they would literally like scream into they would run into the kitchen, grab spatulas and stuff, use those as microphones and jump up and down screaming along to this wild, crazy James Gunn-esque song about Christmas from Aliens.
yeah, yeah. Well, my number 5 is actually where I have Scrooged with Bill Murray, and this movie even kind of makes fun of this Christmas movies for dudes idea. The opening segment where they're doing the night the reindeer died with Lee Majors and this ridiculous like action Santa Claus movie is really funny, and I think that's what this movie is very cynical, but it's funny. It delivers on the laughs, and Carol Kane is my favorite. She's just absolutely hilarious in this movie. But you've got Bill Murray his grumpiest, and see him go on the Scrooge the Christmas Carol kind of journey is a lot of fun. So all right, Terry, what do you have at number 4?
I this is where I have Scrooge, and I
Oh,
agree with
okay.
you.
Yeah.
And this is kind of like a staple of my childhood. I remember when it came out in the theater, and then it was always on TV. And as a child, I was very excited to see Lee Majors in it, because My parents. I grew up watching all that old stuff. So I was like, ooh, name ages. I was probably the only one, only kid my age who knew. But I don't know. It is funny. I love Bill Murray in it. I love that it is so cynical, and it is a nice, different, and unique interpretation of, a very well told and
Yeah.
well known story, and
Well, and
beloved too.
the realistic special effects are really effective. It kind of
Yeah.
feels sort of Gremlins like of that era in just the way that it even looks. And people forget that this is Richard Donner
Yeah.
Mhm.
And it
movie.
still looks good today when you watch it. It's
Yeah,
still
it does.
it looks pretty still good. So
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
I haven't watched this one in so long. Whenever I did watch it, it didn't like, okay, that wasn't as good as I thought a Bill Murray Scrooge movie would be.
yeah.
But
Uh-huh.
that was probably over 20 years ago. Like, I don't think I've seen the movie in 20 years. So now that I'm a Scrooge cranky old man myself, maybe it would click a little bit better. Oh,
Yeah,
is it
yeah.
even though Marianne Ravenwood's in it too?
Uh-huh.
Even those little things that I probably appreciate a little bit more now.
Yeah. Well, and it's interesting that like you said that it played on TV all the time
Yeah.
because the whole
Mhm.
thing is just a
Yeah.
critique of television
Yeah,
at the time.
the best thing as an adult is to discover those movies you watched constantly as a child on television, like uncut, like in its for
Oh
like
yeah.
the excitement I had to watch Commando, like not on TV, like fully uncut. I was like, yes, yes, it's like that is also a kind of element that I had with this movie, the excitement I had to watch it like commercial free and unedited and stuff.
That's true. Yeah,
Yeah.
you watch something and you're like, or even if it wasn't edited, it was edited by my parents and I didn't know. Like they made
Mm.
sure that the scene in the Great Mouse Detective where the mouse there's the burlesque scene, somehow that always got skipped. And I was watching that as an adult and I'm like, what is this scene? And I called my mom and she's like, yeah, we skipped that scene every time.
See, we just used to like just sneak those movies like if we could. And a lot of times we did watch it like they're on TV, so they're edited anyway. But see, my parents didn't speak English. And and sometimes we sort of snuck a couple in there and they're like, "What's this? We didn't know. We didn't know. You're supposed to know the warnings." And they were like, "Oh, we didn't know. We didn't realize."
Yeah.
It got a little harder as time went on, when they got wiser and they they
For
learned the
me,
language better, but
it would be at other people's house because we didn't actually have television for a lot of my growing up, and so it would be
oh,
like. But the funny thing is, a lot of the stuff that I would sneak would be stuff that my parents just thought was stupid. So they're like, "Don't watch that. That's dumb."
oh
Like
right.
I remember I would sneak watch Saved by the Bell, which is ridiculous, but
No, I get
it's
it.
like,
I get it.
Whoa, what a wild childhood.
I know.
Way out there. How dare you?
Yeah. But,
We only
but
had
then my
one
mom was just like,
TV
"This
too.
show's stupid. You can't watch. Don't watch this."
Oh,
She's
oh.
right. I mean,
I
but
sometimes tell my niece and nephew, the kids, don't watch that. That's stupid. But then I just walk out. I was like, don't be that way. But we only had one TV growing up too, so it was like we had to like fight for like, can we watch this? And it was usually like we'll watch Mary Poppins or John Wayne movies, and that's why I love John Wayne today. So thank you to my dad, which is also a lot of dude movies as well. So, but not Christmas though.
yeah.
So shame.
So, Sean, what do you have at number 4?
Number 4 on my list, we have and I hadn't necessarily put these in a particular order, but thinking a little bit maybe in my Christmas, what it doesn't matter. The Holdovers of just a movie last year that um I watched it because of the FYC stuff for your consideration stuff, and I missed it when it first came out because this time of year just gets so busy. And so threw it on. I was kind of in that mood of like, oh man, gotta watch another one of these prestige awards contenders. Am I really in the mood for another stodgy, pretentious? And then you watch it and you're like, oh no, this is so good. It's like not only because the movie's designed to have a timeless throwback vibe to it, it's filmed to feel like the decade when it takes place in the past. But just as the style of movie, it's the type of movie that would have been a big, massive hit in like 1995 that everyone would go see. But it's just not the type of movie that's as big of a hit when you get to the 2020s anymore. And it's funny, it's a drama, it's heartfelt, you care about the characters, kind of all those different things at the same time. And it is so overtly centered around the holidays, but not in sappy sense. It's like it does all the things just different enough, but at the same time feeling familiar, feeling like it's from the past. So just a movie that was very pleasant surprise. Watched it going in like really not in the mood. And the movie itself just won me over. And they sent me like a coffee mug and a sweater, so I appreciated that.
Oh, I'm so jealous. Like I get all these boxes for movies I don't care about at all. Like I just got this box for Emilia Perez, like a movie I didn't even like. Now I've got like a giant art book.
We watched Emilia Perez last night, and there's a shirt in the box, and it was like, Jennifer, put this shirt on. She put this shirt on, and she's like, this shirt itches. This movie's weird. But right,
I only get the boxes for the movies that I don't care about. It's so annoying.
They gotta win you over, Rachel, with swag. That's why.
That box was so big. There's so much stuff in there.
But I agree with you about the holdovers. I have that on as one of my picks. I loved that film so much. It had such heart and soul, and it was so funny. I'd like to take a second and thank our sponsor for this episode of the podcast. It's author Nan Reinhardt and her new book, Made for Mistletoe. If you don't know author Nan Reinhardt's little town in the hills of Indiana, Christmas is the best time to discover her River's Edge books, where 5 of the novels are holiday romances, including her latest release, Made for Mistletoe. With 4 series, 13 books, 5 more on the way, she has an incredible library. NN Light's Book Heaven says of Nan's latest holiday romance, Nan Reinhardt is the queen of heartwarming small-town romances, especially when it's Christmas time. This romance is all about the magic of Christmas and taking a chance on love. If you're like me and adore Hallmark holiday romances, you have to read Made for Mistletoe. Made for Mistletoe is a holiday romance with plenty of emotion. This story should make for a great Hallmark movie. Take my advice and pick up Made for Mistletoe today. It'll delight all of your senses. Come for the love stories, stay for the town. Welcome home to Christmas in River's Edge. Make sure you check out Nan Reinhardt's new book, Made for Mistletoe, wherever you purchase your holiday books, or you can use the affiliate link below. That's Made for Mistletoe. Well, my number 4 is the perfect movie to talk about on Thanksgiving because it's Planes, Trains, and Automobiles. This would arguably be in the conversation for one of the best comedies, I think, ever. Like, not just Christmas. It is so funny. And these two have such chemistry, like, they hate each other. And sometimes movies like this can stress me out. Like, because I'm just like so not a conflict person. Like, I would do anything to avoid conflict. and so like the conflict between these two and this, but it's just executed so well, and it's so funny that I just felt like, is there a better movie about 2 dudes at Christmas time? I don't think so. So I have that my number 4. But Terry, what do you have at 3?
I had the holdovers, but I had to really think about it because I didn't consider this like a dude movie. But the more I thought about it, I was like, yeah, I mean, the perspective is on the two men in this movie. But I just like what a delightful movie that I had no expectations over, and when I watched it, I absolutely loved it through the performances, the story, and I just loved the aesthetic. I mean, it looks like it could have been a 70s movie.
Yeah,
Like
it really
so
does.
much care
Exactly,
went
yeah.
into that's what I loved about it. I was like, oh, it feels like genuine,
Mhm.
but it's such a great movie, and it has like you wouldn't expect it to be as touching as it is, but it really does, and it's like it's wonderful. So yeah, that's my number 3. My
If
number
you're
3.
looking for a dude
Mm.
movie that's like a little bit more gentle. It's not like, like,
Yes.
this is a
Yeah.
great choice. and and it's just so well. I actually have it at 3 as well.
Hmm.
And Divine Randolph deserved the
So
Oscar.
wonderful.
She's
Oh,
so
totally.
good, I think, in that role.
I mean,
And so yeah, I agree. I have it at 3. What about you, Sean? What do you have at 3?
Uh, Number 3 for me, I went with the recent Christmas classic, Violent Night, the movie
Mm.
that took the concept of Die Hard as a Christmas movie and went literal with it. And so you've got Santa having to fight off terrorists at a house with David Harbour as Santa Claus. For me, it's the kind of concept that as soon as you say it, David Harbour as Santa doing a Die Hard, I just go, well, I mean, that's one of my top 10 favorite movies of
Yeah.
the year. It's very difficult for you to botch that for me. And then I watched it, and it was like, okay, that's exactly what I hoped that would be. That's it was ridiculous and violent as I hoped it would be. So I had an absolute blast with that one. And as it put an idea in my head that now is making me critique other movies via the Violent Night grid. So like Red One came out a couple weeks back, and as soon as the thought went in my head of like, what if you did Red One with the vibe of Violent Night? I went, well, that would be a movie I'd be really excited about. An
Yeah.
R-rated hard R. Santa's been kidnapped, and it's like Taken with Santa Claus. I hear that and I go, oh, but you do it as a generic blockbuster with The Rock and Chris Evans, and and it's designed for everyone. I go, I feel like I've seen that movie before, but the Violent Night version of it, man, you would have made your way into my top 10 movies of the year. You just botched it. Maybe let's put it in the Violent Night. It's a sequel to Violent Night, and David Harbour's Santa Claus has been kidnapped and he has to be right. I don't know who I haven't worked on my pitch yet, but maybe I'm selling myself on like this idea of Red One as a sequel to Violent Night, that this is the best movie that could have come out this year if they just talked to me first. Sorry, that was a rabbit trail.
No, but isn't it funny that they basically the night the reindeer died has become a reality? Like from Scrooged, it was a joke. Now
Yep.
it's real.
Now I want a Taken version with Santa Claus. I'm thinking of
Yep.
Liam Neeson in his prime, like with that phone
Exactly.
call. Now I want that.
Yes. And now that we're fully playing this out, it's Santa Claus gets taken. And yeah, you literally do. That's our Taken 4. We haven't had a Taken movie in 10 years, and it's David Harbour as Santa Claus. Like, everyone would love this movie. And just think of how epic that phone call would be. He does his epic speech, I will find you and I will kill you. And then he bites into a candy cane. Like,
Oh my God, I want that so bad now.
Yeah.
This Hollywood,
so
we're right here. We've got all of these ideas.
We're available, please. All right, Terry, what do you have at number 2?
Oh boy. Okay, guys, like this is debatable, this movie, but I don't care because I love this franchise, and it's my number 2 is Rocky 4 because Rocky brings peace at the end on Christmas. He saw, he ends the Cold War.
And he gets the robot on Christmas, right?
The kid does, yeah. Well,
Yeah.
well, let's not talk about the robot, but it's
Isn't
like
that in 4? Did he get
Yes,
the
it
Yeah,
robot?
the robot's in 4. But
yeah,
it's not in
not
the
the
new cut.
director's cut. Sylvester cut
he
that
cut-
later on. But yeah, like yay! At the end of that movie, you're like USA, and Rocky solves everybody's problems, and he gets. I don't care. I love Rocky. I love the series. I was like, no, this is gonna be my number 2. I don't care what pushback I get. Like I can understand the lethal weapon debate and all this other stuff, but I was like, Rocky 4 is going on this list for me. I can't
It
help
was in the
it.
short
I
list,
love it.
so
Yeah, it's like this
it's-
this was the Rocky movies were my childhood. This is something I was the only little girl. They were like, "What are you doing?" I'm like, "Rocky." And they were like, "What?" And I was like, let's punch some people out in a boxing, which is so funny because I don't like boxing, but yet Rocky was my everything. Um, that's why I'll forever love Sylvester Stallone. And yeah, it's just it's It's a bunch of montages too, where he's running in the snow and exercising and stuff. I don't care. It's entertaining. It's very 80s.
Yeah.
And you know.
Yeah.
So I do not have Rocky 4 on my list because I just couldn't justify it as a Christmas movie. But so unfortunately, here on my desk right next to me is the Rocky
Yes.
Balboa quote. And I can't really turn my camera, but there's a full-size Rocky 4 poster. That's like the centerpiece decoration of my office is a Rocky 4
Amazing.
poster with two guitars next to it. So I
It's
have
amazing.
nothing but love for it. It is easily the Rocky movie that is most rewatchable.
Yes.
And just to throw on, and it's such an 80s product of like, there's no other decade which you could make a movie entirely of montages and be
I
like,
know.
this is perfect. It's amazing.
It's amazing, Rachel. It is
Yeah.
amazing.
Oh,
And
I've seen it. Yes.
I know it's
Yes.
not really Christmassy, but like I was like, I don't care. This is the one I'm putting on that's debatable. And I was
I
like,
didn't realize that he took out the robot.
oh yeah, and the
Yeah,
weird, but like everybody always gave him stuff about like the robot all these years, and then he recuts and he's like, I'm taking the robot out. I was like, okay.
Rachel, do you know what Rocky versus Balboa, or excuse me, Rocky versus Drago is? Like, do you know the story on this director's cut?
No.
So this is just 3 years back. He recut Rocky 4, like literally the entire movie. He recut it. And he said that it had 45 minutes of new footage, which was technically true, but it was essentially alternative shots. And so it's a very strange experience because it's not like it has 40 minutes of new scenes or extended scenes. There are new scenes, there is new lines of dialogue, but it's just a different cut. From top to bottom, a different cut. And so, many of us that have been watching the movie for 35, 40 years now, not 40 years, almost 40 years now, you're watching it and you get used to the rhythm of the cuts. And it's like you're hearing a song and you just know it. And even the music, the score and everything. And so you watch this movie that you love and you know where every cut is and they're different. And it cuts to like a wide shot. It's such a fascinating experience. And one of the biggest changes is that they cut out the robot.
It was like, I'll never forget, like, I think Stallone was on Twitter, like, yeah, the robot's out. I hope everybody's happy. And I was like, okay, the robot is like, I get it, but like, also, I get it because it was 80s. Robots were so in at that era. Of course there was going to be a robot in that movie, but it's so funny that he had to be like, no, it's out. It's out. It's an amazing
movie. That's funny.
So the movie has 40 minutes of extra footage, but it's only 2 minutes longer. That's what I meant. That's the way to phrase that. Where you go like how strange of a movie it is. Like it's because he said it's going to be 40 minutes extra footage, and then he revealed the runtime, and it's just 2-3 minutes longer. And everyone was like, "Hey, wait a minute, what did you mean?" Then you watch it, and you're like, "Whoa, this is so peculiar." It's such a fascinating experience to watch a movie that's the same movie, but also totally different from the same director.
Do you like it? Do you prefer one or the other, or is it too hard with the nostalgia?
I think the nostalgia of it, it feels like you're out of sync. It feels like you're constantly off time when I watch the new one, because I mean, I've seen the original cut 30, 40, 50 times. I have no idea, a lot.
Yeah.
And so it just that it's the novelty. It is really cool. And there's a lot of really good added lines that flesh out Drago just a little bit. There's little things that you're like, that's really good. And you kind of wish that he did the extended cut rather than a whole different cut.
Yeah.
So you do the hour and 45, hour 50-minute version with all this stuff added in. I think then you do get the better definitive version without breaking up the cadence.
Yeah, I agree.
That makes sense. That makes sense.
I agree on that.
We'd like to take a second and thank our sponsor for this episode of the podcast. It's the Hallmarkies merch store.
Are you looking for that perfect gift for the postable, Hardy, or Hallmarky in your life?
What about getting that t-shirt or hoodie that will help you stand out at your next holiday party?
Now is the time to check out the Hallmarkies merch store.
Full of festive designs by artists like Jessica Miller, Carrie from Hallmark Comics, and more.
You can even have more than just shirts, but totes, cell phone cases, notebooks, mugs, and more.
And it isn't just Hallmark. We have designs for Anna Green Gables, Man from Snowy River, The Nanny, and more.
Every purchase at the merch store goes to help support the podcast and allows us to make the great content you know and love.
There are frequent sales, so go to tpublic.com/stores/Hallmarkies or see the link in the description.
That's tpublic.com/stores/Hallmarkies.
What do you have at number 2?
Number 2. This is the one earlier we talked about, a Christmas movie that is widely considered Christmas classic, that in my household would be the example of the dude movie that my wife is not into. That would be Christmas Vacation,
Yeah.
where my wife does not like Clark Griswold for all of the obvious reasons. That she's like, he's the worst. He's a terrible person. He's always flirting with women that aren't his wife, and it's like, you're not wrong. And so we this is one that I would like watch upstairs by myself during the Christmas season, because she just wasn't interested in it. And so finally last year we thought the kids were old enough that they could watch it, and they watched it. And there's so many just iconic Christmas bits in here that are, of course, this movie created the entire, oh, that's the Clark Griswold of the neighborhood, whoever the person is that goes all out. It created that vocabulary that we all have a shared language to discuss, a house with too many Christmas lights and things like that. And they're watching all of this for the first time. And it's just like really good slapstick comedy. It's like, Chevy Chase at the end of his peak era of just being really funny at this kind of thing.
Oh, yeah.
And so the first time ever, my wife watched it, and because the kids enjoyed it, she was able to enjoy it.
Well,
I've never thought of that movie. I'm sorry, Rachel, but I've never thought of Christmas Vacation like as a strictly like dudes movie. That's why I didn't put it in, because I think there's enough for everybody. But I can understand the argument.
Well, I actually have it at 2 as well. It is really hard for me to separate nostalgia and experience from this movie. It was one of my grandma's favorites, and she would laugh to the point of like concern. We're like, breathe, like you're not like, especially the 2 parts. And I agree with her; it was absolutely hilarious. But when the squirrel comes out of the tree, it's just absolutely ridiculous and funny. And then my favorite part and her favorite part is the whole say grace scene. Grace. They want you to say grace. And then she's like, I pledge allegiance to the flag. That is funny. That is very, very funny. And yeah, he's kind of a skeevy guy, but they have enough moments that endear you to the character, with him watching the home movies and him really trying to make things nice for his family.
But that's the thing. When I think Jennifer, she kind of locks into my wife. If you don't know, my wife's name is Jennifer. I believe she's been on here many times, but she locks in on those specific things that makes her not like a character or a movie or a scene. And she's kind of like, we're all wired differently when we connect with things. And so she remembers all of those. And so when you watch the movie and he's flirting with the girl at the beginning of the movie, but then the rest of the film is him trying really, really hard to have a special Christmas for his whole family. He's like so well-intentioned.
It endears you to the character enough for me. But yeah, I get that.
And it was the 80s. So I just shrug when I see that stuff today. Like, because it's so funny. You watch movies that as an adult and today that you watched as a kid from a different era. And I'm like, it was like, it was the 80s, and I shrugged my shoulders,
The other thing that it has going for it is that they just keep the jokes coming. So if one doesn't hit as much for you, we got another one coming right away. That's funny. And so I think that helps it as well.
Oh, and as an adult, when he doesn't get that bonus and he just loses it, it's like, I feel that. Like, wait, I was expecting this. What do you mean it's not coming? Like, you feel that in your bones now as an adult, and when you work hard for something and you're like, what?
Well, and the Julia Louis-Dreyfus being the uppity neighbor next door.
Funny. When he blinds her. I mean, that is probably, to me, one of the funniest moments, when she's flipping out of bed with the lights blinding her.
It's really good. It's really good. All right, Terry, what's your number 1?
Well, my number 1 is a movie that I had a very harsh verbal argument with my brother about, on whether it was a Christmas movie or not. It is Die Hard.
Yes.
Guys, I am tired of this fight.
Same.
It is set at Christmas. My man is traveling to visit his family, to be with them on Christmas. It is a Christmas Office Party. You gonna tell me that's not a Christmas movie? The entire soundtrack is Christmas music. You know, I'm
You
like,
literally have a character say ho 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 at
I mean,
one
the whole
point.
entire soundtrack, it is completely a Christmas movie. And I'm like, come on, guys, no, we can't fight. But we almost came to blows, my brother and I. I was like, what do you mean?
That's fair.
And he's like, no, it
Makes
is
sense.
not. I was like, what do you mean it's not? So much so that I had to take my nephew when it came out last year for the anniversary in the theaters. And I was like, we going. We went in the middle of a Wednesday night. It was just us. It was beautiful. We were all hooping and hollering there. And he walks out and goes, yeah, that was a Christmas movie. And he is so against Christmas movies because of me, because I love Christmas movies so much. And I was like, I've won this argument. That's it. That's the end of it.
Yes. I mean, Sean, do you have it on your
Of
list?
course, it's
Yes.
number one, of course.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, I think that's what's so frustrating about the conversation. Like, there's a side to it. Like, of course, I understand where you would kind of go, uh, when you think people are at their Christmas tree at their house and charming, sweet family movie. It's not that, but at the core of the movie, it's literally a guy trying to get home with his family. That's not like
Mhm.
that's not like a deep read on it. That's not like any sort of anything. That's just overtly the plot of the movie. He's trying to reconnect with his family uh, via a Christmas party. Like, it's so overt that
Yeah.
like, you think what makes a Christmas, we go back to like, you have to have several of these categories. It's set at Christmas, there's Christmas music in it, and then thematically it's Christmas themed, trying to get together with your family. But then the genre package around it, of course, is, John McTiernan action movie. It's, the peak 80s action movie. That's the package around it, but at its core, it has multiple of those different things. So, like, we're just gatekeeping. We're just like
Yeah.
arbitrarily kicking
Mhm.
movies out. It's genre bias if you don't allow a movie that's about a guy going home for Christmas to a Christmas party with a Christmas movie as a Christmas movie.
Yeah. The only argument I could see against it is that it doesn't have the tone of a
Right.
particular of a lot of Christmas movies, but that's exactly why it's refreshing, why in this genre. Like, we don't want to be so narrow that it basically has to be some form of a Hallmark movie in order to be something to watch at Christmas. And so I don't think the tone argument really works. And as you all said, like, it's literally happening at a Christmas party. He says ho ho ho. It's it's
Right.
all about him coming home
It
for
is all
Christmas.
about
When,
it.
and when
Yeah.
they open the vault, when they finally crack the code, like, swelling Christmas music, Merry
Yeah.
Christmas. They're all like it's all right
Yeah.
there.
I mean, the
Very-
soundtrack alone, like, these people are like, not a Christmas movie, and I turn, my blood boils when people argue about that,
Yeah, yeah.
But like,
Yeah,
come on.
absolutely. Well, and now we've had in 2 Hallmark movies this year, they have mentioned Die Hard being a Christmas movie. So I think if
Mhm.
Hallmark agrees, everybody agrees, it's a Christmas movie.
Yeah.
So, well, I hope you all have enjoyed this. We want to hear your picks, what you think of our picks, and what would be your picks. Like I said, I'll have the link for the short list if you want to make your own blog or video or whatever with your picks. We'd love to hear that. And thanks so much for coming on, Sean, and doing this. We really appreciate it. And if people want to follow you, your content, how do they do that?
Yeah, if you head on over to YouTube, if you look up Sean Chandler, you'll either find a NFL player or a guy that looks like me that talks about movies. It is the guy that looks like me that is talking about movies, but Sean Chandler all over the internet. I don't have the same handle, so I'd have to list off like 17 different handles to let you know where to go.
Yeah.
I'm not one of those responsible people that went like, let's synchronize all of these with one useful handle.
Terry, what about you?
I'm on Twitter at Flurry Heaven.
Great. And you can find me at Rachel's Reviews, all of our social media, iTunes, YouTube, and on Rotten Tomatoes. So check that out. Also, make sure that you're following the podcast, the Hallmarkies Pod, Hallmarkies Podcast, all of our social media. And if you are listening on iTunes, please leave your ratings and reviews, especially during this time of the year. It really helps people to find us if we have more of those reviews and ratings. Please, please, please. And if you are watching on YouTube, please give the video a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel. We appreciate that so much. and check out our patron group. We have a lot of fun talking about things like this in the Facebook group. Plus, we have monthly activities and other fun stuff going on for the patrons, which really try to make it worth your while. So check that out. And we have our merch store where we have new movie inspired designs, including A Christmas Story, including It's a Wonderful Life, and including Die Hard. We have a Die Hard inspired design. So please take a look at that. We sure appreciate it. And thanks so much, everybody. Happy Thanksgiving. And we'll talk to y'all later. Merry Christmas.
Bye.